So this tutorial, I'm gonna go over doing a turntable render with wireframe unshaded and also ambient occlusion. Here is a preview of the render, and so this is what you call wireframe unshaded, and it also has what is called ambient occlusion, meaning that anywhere there's a tight contact between two meshes, it's going to make a contact shadow. And this is not from a light source. This is just purely calculated by the special shader. This contact shadow is from the area light, or is a top-down area light coming down and makes this contact shadow. This underneath shadow is from the area light. This underneath shadow is from the area light. This here I believe is ambient occlusion, ambient occlusion, ambient occlusion. Wireframe unshaded, with where the wireframe color is lighter gray. I have here also a darker gray background color. Alright, and this is also using something called AI shadow matte, which I'm going to talk about later. Alright, so with that out of the way, here we are, brand new fresh scene, right? It's completely brand new. Okay, I'm gonna go into my render settings. Okay, that guy right there. And I'm gonna first go under common tab, image size, right? That's your fourth major drop down menu, image size. Click here, look for the HD 1080, image size HD 1080. Then I need to go over here too, but I'm gonna see that for a little bit later. I'm gonna go into Arnold tab, Arnold render. This tells me that it's gonna be rendering off of the CPU, so I don't want that. I'm gonna go on with that in mind. I'm gonna go into the system tab, and I'm gonna choose GPU. Right, device selection, render device, GPU. Previously it was CPU, so you want the GPU. Make sure. Then there is your manual device selection, which is the third tab, right? So if I crack open the device selection, there's this automatic device. Then there's this manual device. I'm gonna click on enable manual device. That means that you're gonna enable the device, which your device would be the RTX graphics card, whichever graphics card you have in your workstation or at home or school, right? You want to enable that. You need to highlight this and check this on. Make sure this is GPU, and you're good. Then go back to Arnold renderer. Now this completely changes. This is grayed out. For GPU rendering, only this will be accessible. Set this to 8. This tells us how nice and crisp the renders will be. Camera anti-alias at 8. Make sure that I have my imagers on. Right, this should be on by default. And then I'm going to hit close. So that's the first thing I did. Next, I'm going to have to set up the shaders. So I'm going to click on the hyper shade, cue ball, grab it, and I'm going to chuck it over here. Bam. And I don't need my material viewer, just taking up space. I hit the X. I don't need my property editor, because the property editor is nearly the same thing as the attribute editor. get rid of it. And the create bin, I don't need it. It's a waste of my time. I don't need the bins. Get rid of it. Here, I'm gonna press tab key, type in AI wire or wireframe. Choose AI wireframe, click enter, select the small little boxes, press F as in Frank to frame onto it. Focus and frame onto it. Here we are. I'm going to grab both of them. I have them named. Make sure to name everything. Make sure that they are, dead centered, right? Make sure he is dead centered on top of the platform. Little things like that are critical. And this one, not 100%. See? If I want, I could pull them back a bit to be right there. But whatever I do not put the character off center. Right? It has to be right down the middle. See this midline? Right down the middle. I talked about this several times, and I have to mention it again because someone is gonna forget and screw up. I make sure that in here, right, also midline more or less down the middle too. Platform is also down the middle. Platform is also down the middle. All that is important. Next, select both meshes like that, marquee selected, and then here, right, AI wireframe, I'm gonna hover over the AI wireframe node, right click and hold, right, add material to viewport selection, bam. So this tells us that it's assigned. Then I'm gonna click on the clapper with the eyeball to bring up my Arnold render view. I'm gonna do a incremental save. Control Alt S, and I'm gonna do a render. Control U to fire up a render. And this is what the render looks like. It looks horrible. Oh wait, it's running the front shape. I don't want the front. I need to change this to perspective. Control U, and space bar. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to move this and that. I'm going to turn on my multi-sample anti-alias. Makes it nice crisp lines in my viewport. Then I'm going to also, before I get back in here, I'm going to turn on this right here, resolution gate, and this gate mask. You can see the render size 1920 by 1080, perspective camera, zoom in a bit. Let's do a render. Control U. Alright, so this is what it looks like. It looks pretty horrific. Save a snapshot. Right. And then what I need to do is adjust this. Right now I see it's triangulated, triangles. So in order to fix that, select my AI wireframe, press Ctrl A to bring up the attribute editor. I'm gonna go wireframe attributes, right? AI wireframe, wireframe attributes, edge type, set it to polygons. See? And here, when I do a render, updated render, Control U. And as you can see, it's better, right? Update the snapshot. But when I look at it, you notice how it's super dense over here. It's dark. That's because there's so many lines that it causes it to be completely black lines, but into a thick black line, right? So this here is the wireframe is shaded, but you have this crap going on, but the mesh is smooth, right? Because I have it on level 3, where I have it selected and pressed 3, whereas compared to 1, right? I pressed 1 right now versus 3, right? 1 versus 3, you can see a difference. So I'm going to leave it at 1, and we'll show the difference. Control U. So this is at 1, right? Big difference. This is, you know, visually looks nice. You can see everything, it breathes well, but the only problem is that it's faceted lines. See? Blocky shapes. Whereas this one, it is not faceted lines, right? But the mesh is too heavy, the mesh is too condensed. Whereas this is perfect, but it is faceted faces. Now the question is there an in-between? Something this and this. Is there a mid in-between that I can get of a render? And there is. So I'm going to show that right now. So I'm going to press 3, right, for the smooth preview. Right, press 3. This one I'm going to leave as 3. It's been 3 all this time, smooth preview. So now I need to go into the attribute editor. After I selected on my mesh at level 3, smooth preview, I need to go under smooth mesh, tab, drop down menu, and then I need to go under subdivision levels, right? That's within my smooth mesh. See, you don't see subdivision levels, but once you crack open smooth mesh, you'll see subdivision levels. Crack open subdivision levels, and then you'll see here preview divisions levels. Basically, there are varying degrees of the smoothness. The higher the number, right? Because right now it's currently at 2, right? That means it's this thick, this dense, and I don't want it to be this dense, but I also don't want it to be faceted faces of a silhouette. So I'm going to just press, instead of 2, you'll notice here, right, if I press 1, there's going to be a slight difference. See? 2, 1, subtle difference. Let's see what it looks like at 1. I'm going to press Control U, and this is at subdivision levels for the body at 1. So there is a change. Before, this is at preview divisions at 2. This is preview divisions at 1. So it's a nice in between, and I'm gonna have this preview divisions at 1. Platform, I'm gonna leave the preview divisions at 2 because it's not that thick, it's just right. Okay, so that was that. Next, this here does not have my ambient occlusion contact shadows, meaning in the more final version, these are my contact shadows for the ambient occlusion. I want that now. How do I get that? Well, Not only that, but how do I also get my gray background color? I'm going to show both of those. So what I'm going to do is, oh, by the way, do not turn on IPR. I repeat, do not turn on IPR. If you turn on IPR and you make some specific changes, it's going to crash and not render the GPU. Let me see here. So wireframe, AI wireframe. Here's AI wireframe, right? Attribute editor. Fill color, which was white, right? I'm gonna plug in something special in here, meaning that under the checker box icon, click it. This guy will pop up. I'm gonna close, and close that. I only have my Arnold render tab, drop down menu open. I'm going under shader, click on shader. I'm going to choose ambient AI, ambient occlusion, click it. Once I did that, this changes because it got plugged in. That is here. Here's my AI wireframe, right? This is the AI ambient occlusion that it just made, and that it automatically plugged into my fill color. Ignore this. This gets linked if it's applied to a shader, I believe. Anyway, just ignore it, but don't delete it. Now if I do a render, right, control, first I make sure I save this, control U. And here it is. Before, after. Before, see the contact, after. Save a snapshot. Right? So that's what that is. So far so good. Next, I want a nice gray background. Right? Which is here. Nice soft gray background. And I also want that nice soft gray lines compared to this, perhaps. Something to consider. So how do I get that gray background? Well, first I'm going to do an incremental save, Control Alt S. I'm going to grab my camera, the perspective camera. I did not make a render cam. Like I said, I'm going to keep it simple. Select the perspective camera from the outliner. Here we are, the attribute editor. Close everything. I want to look under environment tab, crack it open, background color, give a grayish color, something like this. And I'm going to do a render. Make sure I have this saved. And now Control U, bam. Super fast. That only took 2 seconds with a RTX 3090, 2 seconds. And much higher render quality settings. So this is what it looks like. Before, after, before, after. Pretty nice. Save a snapshot. I'm gonna delete these other ones. Right, so I'm gonna have this. So you can see the build up. Next thing, what I want to do is I want to, so I'm comparing. Right. I like this darker gray color, and I have a lighter color, so you can choose. I highly recommend only using grayscale colors. Do not choose some crazy ass color for the background. Now, next thing is I want to introduce something called the AI shadow matte, meaning that for it to be able to catch shadows here, you know, mainly here, because right now there's no shadows, there's no floor. So what do I do? Well, first I'm going to do an incremental save. I have my modeling menu, polygon menu, modeling, and we'll click on this plane, polygon plane, and we'll name it ground floor. Here, press 4. It's that guy right there. Press R for the scale tool and jack it up, something like that. Press 5 so you can see it. See? If I do a render, and I do, so I have this saved, Control U. This is what it looks like. So it looks like roadkill. It does not look good, right? I don't like it. This is the ground, right? And this is what the render will look like. It is what it is, right? So, but how do I get from looking like this, where the floor is pure black, right? Even though the floor has a shader on it, because if I do select objects with initial shading group, right? This is the standard shader that's on all the models that's made. Select objects. So this floor, it naturally comes with this shader, but you don't see the gray shader, and you also see just a stiff horizon line because of the floor. Whereas this is so much nicer. So what do we do? Well, now I gotta make a special shader called an AI shadow matte, which I'm gonna explain after. So I'm going to clear this area for now, pressing the 3 stars. Press tab, type in AI shadow matte, enter, select it, press F to focus and frame onto it. Alright, this is the AI shadow matte shader, and I'm going to just select the floor, and I'm gonna hover over the AI shadow matte. Oops. Select the floor, hover over the AI shadow matte shader, right click and hold, assign material to viewport selection. Bam. It looks the same as this, but they're 2 different shaders. I wonder what happens if I do a render, right? I'm gonna save this. Snapshot, Control U. There you go. Part 1 is set up. Well, it looks just like what here's before, after. The floor is still there. It looks like this. See, when I click here, that allows me to select the floor mesh. Watch again. See, I can click here and it'll grab the mesh. It literally will grab the mesh, just to show that little nuance. But so this and versus the previous render, right? Before, wait a minute. Oh, look at that, there is a difference. Interesting. So this is before, right? Where the floor has a typical gray shader of the AI standard surface, remember? This is after, right? After I assign the floor to the shadow matte shader. But there's a difference between this render, which I'm going to save right now, snapshot 7, right, versus snapshot 5. See? Isn't that interesting? Snapshot 5 has the gray background and also has